Hello and welcome back to another Coriander Quilt Saturday. Gail J sent in a couple photos that I'm going to be sharing with you right now. She says, "Hi Nicole and Corey. Thank you so much for the videos and the smiles each Saturday. It's fun to see what you've discovered and the techniques you share. I am especially grateful for your machine binding video from a few months ago. Now I almost like to bind quilts." Notice I said almost. Corey, I love your patterns and your fabrics. I haven't met a Corey Yoder fabric I didn't like. I have made 2 quilts from your great patterns. I made this first quilt after my college roommate from 40 plus years ago came for a visit. She had recently vacationed in Maine. She's not a quilter, but she found a cute quilt shop and just had to go in. She bought 10 quarters of fabric from Australia based on Aboriginal designs that she just loved. She brought them to me and said she wanted a quilt made for her daughter who had recently gotten married. Of course, I was all in. I flipped through several books and kept coming back to the pattern proposal in the Oh Happy Day book. I thought the title of the pattern was perfect, and the fact that it was for fat quarters made it even better. I backed it with cuddle fabric and mailed it to her to give to her daughter. It was a huge hit. The second quilt I made for my precious Aunt Levon, who was moving into an assisted living facility a few years ago. The decor was already neutral colors and blues, so I found the apricot jelly pattern and thought it would be perfect to bring out the blues in her room. And the solid blue made the stars pop. I also backed this one with cuddle, and my aunt loved it for its warmth and addition to the decor. My sweet aunt recently passed away, so the quilt ended up in another aunt's possession, which made me very happy that it will be used. Thank you both for all you do to make the quilting world a very happy, bright place to be. Corey, you inspire me with your beautiful, cheerful fabrics and your well-written, gorgeous patterns. Keep those videos coming. All the best, Gail. We have the best viewers watching along every Saturday. I so enjoy chatting with each and every one of you. So I hope you stick around to see more viewer quilts. I've got a rapid fire viewer Q&A, and I'm sharing the $5 pattern for June, and of course my Moda Blockheads blocks, so stick around. Let's just keep moving with these viewer quilts. Cheryl F says, "Hi Corey and Nicole, thank you for highlighting so many beautiful quilts made by your viewers. I always enjoy seeing them. This is a quilt I made with the star-striped pattern and sun-washed fabrics. I have 3 grown children, and though I have made them quilts, I've started to make each of them a quilt that reflects either a holiday or season. Each received a holiday quilt this past Christmas. This is my daughter's July 4th quilt. I fell in love with the pattern, and the fabrics are happy and summery to me. I had just gotten the quilts back from the long armor, so they are without binding in the photos. I have the Starberry fabric line for my youngest son's Christmas quilt. I love your fabrics and patterns. Thank you for sharing your creativity and talent with the quilting world, Cheryl." And she included the cutest little note in with her daughter Ashley's quilt, and I just thought it would make just the nicest gift. So thank you so much for sharing those quilts, Cheryl. Lastly, we have a quilt sent in by Paula S. And she says, "Loved today's video on your woolly stars. This pattern is pretty popular among my quilting friends. I wanted to make a fall version, but my quilt was doing a Christmas star quilt theme for our Christmas dinner. Although I didn't get it done in time for the dinner, I did make a winter version of woolly stars. Fall woolly stars will be hopefully in the future. Love your videos and all the quilty goodness that comes from your creativity. Happy sewing, Paula." So that was such a neat fall-themed woolly stars quilt. So many fun quilts to share with you guys today. If you have quilts that you'd like to have featured in an upcoming Coriander Quilts video, if they feature my fabrics or one of my patterns, send them on in, and we love sharing your projects. I have Nicole's email in the description box below for any projects you might like to send our way. Let's go ahead and move on to the $5 pattern for June. I am going to be sharing a quilt that I have not shared here on the channel before that I'm aware of. It's actually been hanging out at the house of my friend Feline for many years. She had borrowed it for a project, and I just got it back from her just a couple weeks ago. Now, what's interesting is I bet some of you know my friend Feline because she is the owner and mastermind of the Cat's Meow collectible items. So if you've heard of Cat's Meow, maybe you have collected some of her adorable little projects. I will put her website in the description box for those of you who might not be familiar with her, but I'm sure that there are some of you that are familiar with Cat's Meow. So Feline and I go to the same church, and we became I started to know her because we both worked in children's ministry together and spent quite a bit of time together. And she, a number of years ago, created some quilty themed Cat's Meow pieces. And so she used some of my quilts as inspiration for some of her little projects. I don't know if those are still available to purchase. I'll have to look and see. She used Tulip Market, which is the quilt I'm sharing today. She used one of my Barnstar patterns, and I think my Apple Creek pattern is the other one. It's been so many years, so it's a little bit hard for me to think, but I'll look when I am linking her website and see if you can still purchase any of those little items, because it was kind of a neat little collaboration that we did quite a while ago. But anyways, I have my Tulip Market quilt back from Feline. She had borrowed it, and then she wanted to take extra photographs, and it just hung out there for a while. I didn't need it, and it was perfectly safe hanging out with her, and that's where it was. But I wanted to offer it as my $5 pattern, so I checked if I could get that back, and I had it back the next day. So, so this is Tulip Market. As I said, it's an older quilt of mine. 2017, I just looked at the back of the pattern to see exactly when I created this. So 2017, my Tulip Market pattern came out. It is a jelly roll friendly quilt. This original fabric line is Flour Mill. I think it was my 5th line of fabric, if I'm remembering right. Not sure, don't quote me on that. But just a happy flower-filled quilt, perfect for spring. And take a look at it here. I'll just slide you over a little bit so you can see that in a little bit more detail. A nice roomy quilt. Let me double check what size it finishes at. 68 by 83. Stay over there, Mr. Tulip Market. There we go. Now you can see that better. So a really nice, joyful, happy springtime quilt. So one jelly roll, and then you need a bit of fabric, green fabrics for the stems and the leaves, background, binding, and backing fabric to complete this quilt. Take a peek at that back again. You saw it a little bit when I was gathering up the pattern, but there's what the back fabric looks like. This binding fabric is a neat one that I designed in Flour Mill. It's actually a gingham stripe. So it's a stripe and a gingham, and I love it for these bindings. Now, Flour Mill is a harder fabric line to find. It's been out for quite a while. So I will have other designs mocked up over on my blog today, so you can see this done in some fabric lines that are currently in stores. I know I'm going to do it in a bloom because I think that's going to be really pretty with all of those. Well, you know what a bloom looks like. I've had it hanging in my backdrop here. I think it'll be really pretty in that fabric line. All of those peachy corals and spring greens and aquas. I think that will be beautiful. So I'm going to do it in a bloom. I need to decide what other fabric line I want to share it into. Maybe a couple more because it's a fun one. And I think many of us probably have jelly rolls sitting around just waiting for that perfect project. So again, this is Tulip Market. It's $5 for this month. Well, actually it's going to be $5 starting today, which is the last day of May. It's the June $5 pattern of the month. So for all of June, plus today, it is $5. It's available in both paper and PDF format. And you can still snag the May $5 pattern of the month, which is Barnstar 7. So if you wanted to still grab this one, as well as Tulip Market, you can grab both of them for just today. This last day of May, both of these are $5. This one goes back to regular price tomorrow, June 1st. And then, let me fold these up here a little bit. I also wanted to show you guys the Tulip Market mini quilt because that was another one that I designed for the Flour Mill collection. And quilts are pretty in the big size, but sometimes they're just so cute in that little small size. So get this folded just a bit. I just saw Tigy walk right outside past my window here. Too bad we don't have him joining us today. Oh, he's coming back for another perusal. I wonder if he sees us in here and he just knows he's missing out on all the quilty fun. There he goes. It's so funny. He's just right at my height with the way the windows are down here. All right, so this is Tulip Market Mini. Just this adorable little cute quilt. She's just small. And this pattern is also available in my Etsy shop. I have, I think, just 5 more paper patterns available, and then I don't know if I'm going to reprint that one or not. I haven't quite decided, but of course you can get it in PDFs. This one I just machine quilted myself on my little Bernina, and it just makes a cute little topper. I don't know, you could use this for any number of things. If you like making journal covers, I know I went through a journal cover phase where I was making all kinds of journal covers to go over top of the composition sized notebooks. And one tulip flower would be just adorable on the front of one of those journal covers. You can find tutorials free online if you like making those sorts of things, but that'd be a really cute way to use this pattern. So let's put these two side by side a little bit so you can see the difference in size from the big version to its little counterpart. So those are the Tulip Market quilts. Again, Tulip Market in the full size is $5 for June. This little guy is $6.50 in June. Well, all the time. That's its regular price. And then Barn Star 7 is $5 yet for the last day of May, and then it will be back to its regular price of $6.50 starting June 1st. So there we go. Can't believe we're at June, $5 pattern of the month. I say that every month when it rolls around because these months are going so fast. And I know part of that is that we've just been super busy over here with moving into a new house. We did that in January, and now it's spring, and it's been really fun seeing like all of the flowers and trees and whatnot that we have growing here. We had no idea. We looked at our house, the house we moved into here this fall, and everything was beautiful, but it was the beauty of fall changing leaf color and, you know, all the fall colors. And so the spring, we have way more flowers than I thought we had, which is a little intimidating because you've heard me say I just cannot keep flowers alive. So fingers crossed that things stay looking well out there. And then beautiful flowering trees. It's just been so much fun. And then actually this week, our old home is under contract, and so we're still maintaining that house until everything goes through. So we were at our old house this week because we needed to do a little bit of flower bed weeding over there. So we did that, and then we came to, this was Memorial Day, we were doing some work. And so then we came home to our new house, and we have raised, it would have been used for a vegetable garden, those sorts of beds, raised beds that needed weeded. And so we were working on that on Monday. There's just a few of them and nothing super extravagant, just a nice size if you'd want to have fresh vegetables over the summer, but probably not enough that we could do any sort of freezing or canning or anything like that. So we came home and I said, well, let's just go weed those beds. We were just weeding. If we all work together, it goes a lot faster. So me and the girls were weeding those beds. Ryan was doing some tree trimming around the yard. And then I don't remember which one of the girls it was, Eleni or Chloe, said, hey, couldn't each of us have one of our own little garden plots that we could take care of ourselves and grow what we wanted to grow? There's 4 nice roomy plots and then some various larger pots. So I said, well, yeah, actually we could do that. I knew I had one that I wanted. One of the things when we were weeding down at our old house is we had garden tea. I talked about it here before. And it's actually just a mint of some sort. And I think I figured out which type of mint it is, but just a mint that I had growing at our old house that we would bring in and use for garden tea. I've heard people call it creek tea around here or ditch tea, but it's really just some sort of a mint. And I had no idea what kind of mint it was the last time I chatted here, but we went down to old house, we weeded. I needed to transplant some because I wanted to bring some up to our new house. So I did that and then got it planted in. And then the girls and I decided that we needed to go get our vegetables that we wanted to plant and maybe some flowers. And so they were excited to go and I was excited to go. We got those nice plots weeded and we're ready for vegetables. So we went on Tuesday and picked out the vegetables. Well, we did some Monday night too. So we purchased some vegetables Monday night and then some more vegetables on Tuesday, some flowers, and got everything planted. But apple mint was at one of the greenhouses that I went to, and it looked so similar to what I already have from our old house. So I think what we've always been referring to as garden tea is actually apple mint. And it's a bigger mint plant than maybe some, and we will just cut the stalks and you just boil them up. Some people take the leaves off the stalks and will only boil the leaves, but oftentimes we'll just trim the stalks and throw several into a big pot of water and boil it. You can drink it unsweetened or you can sweeten it if you want, and it's something we look forward to every summer. So I've got my little plot of garden tea growing, and I did some tomatoes and some peppers. I put in some herbs, basil, cilantro, and parsley. And then what did the girls do? Chloe did a really colorful little, I don't even know what it's called. It's a pepper plant, but the peppers are round, more like a little cherry or grape tomato, and they're all colors, 5 different colors, I think. So she did one plant of those, and then she did 2 jalapeno plants. I think she did some tomatoes, and then she did some flowers as well, just some wildflowers. Eleni did, I think they both did cucumbers too. And then Eleni wanted a sunflower, so she's got some sunflowers that she has planted. She did some wildflowers. What else did she do? Several tomatoes and some thyme. Now her little pot of thyme did get knocked over last night when she went out to check on it this morning. So I'm not sure. We've got a raccoon around here. Maybe you guys know if raccoons bother vegetable gardens. I wasn't too concerned about them. I was more worried about the deer or the rabbits or any number of other things we have around here, but something knocked over her pot, and she said nibbled a little bit of her, I think I said thyme, I meant chives, nibbled a little bit of her chives. And so I don't think they liked it too much because they left it alone. So we'll see what happens. If you know if I need to be worried about these raccoons, they really have done a number on our birdseed, and we have some suet feeders out also. So we now know we can't leave those out overnight. So we'll put them out in the morning and then bring them in overnight because yeah, he's getting, I don't know if it's one or more than one, but it's been fun. It's been interesting seeing what all we have here that we weren't expecting. So we definitely have a raccoon friend that we have to figure out if he's going to be a problem or not. Hopefully he's just fine and we can coexist happily, but we'll see what happens. I was going to say something else about, the rest of, Eleni also has dill. That's what I was thinking, dill, and then, just her cucumbers and her tomatoes, and then that might be about it. I'd have to go look and double check what all she's got. And then so I said we had 4 garden plots. So we each took one, and then the 4th one I seeded with a whole bunch of wildflowers. So I'll see what happens in that one. I thought it might be fun if it's just sort of a glorious array of random color. And it was an annual perennial mix in there, so we'll see what happens next year with that one. Okay, that was probably more than you wanted to hear about my gardening endeavors. It's just been busy, and that's what's been on my mind, which was what I was talking about with June sneaking up on me faster than I thought. There's just been so much more to do this spring than we have some years. So anyhow, okay, enough about gardening. Let me know about those raccoons because I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be a problem or not. I don't even know if that's what got after those chives, but something big enough to knock the pot over. It was a big pot, not just a little one. So, okay, blockheads. Let's just go ahead and show you these blocks. I shared these over in the Moda Blockheads Facebook group on Wednesday. I actually just got them stitched up Wednesday morning. I didn't have a chance to work on them ahead of time, so they got stitched up and shared on Wednesday. I chatted about my Moda Blockheads plan in last Saturday's video. And so here you can see the beginnings of my plan. I'm making the panel from a bloom. and these will be alternated with the pieced Moda Blockheads blocks. These are free patterns. If you're unfamiliar with this sew along, I'll link to information below so you can catch up if it's something you want to join in on. I'm using a Bloom Fabrics. The white on white sketchy print is my background fabric here. It's the same print as this light gray on white sketchy print. I'm planning to frame all of my blocks using that print. I wanted just a little something, but I didn't want too much contrast. I could have used the sketch in coral. There's one in the dark gray. So this is the coral right here. Is there a dark gray easy to see? Not exactly. So there's also a dark gray version of the sketch, but it's just a lot. Oh, here. This print right here. You can't see it, I'm sure, real well, but you can get at least the color idea. A real dark gray or the coral. There's a light pink and an aqua. And I just wanted something really soft. I really want the overall feel of this quilt to just be soft and light, very rose gardeny. I haven't even decided yet if I'm going to be using any of the darkest grays in this quilt or if I'm going to kind of stick to this softer palette. I'll probably decide within the next couple weeks because I can get away with using just the softer colors, but then if I do want to add in some of the darker colors, I need to start sprinkling that in sooner rather than later. So I will need to decide, but for right now, this is kind of where I'm headed. So first 2 blocks there. I will continue sharing these blocks, hopefully every Saturday. I hope to stay on top of this. And as I mentioned last week, because I'm not making all of the Moda Blockheads blocks, there will be weeks where I won't be making any. So I'll be sharing them as I make them here on Saturdays. Next, we're going to dive into sort of a rapid fire Q&A portion of today's video. My questions file is getting a bit lengthy. I love having all of you guys' questions and having a lot to choose from every week. As I was looking through for today's questions, I realized there's a lot of quicker to answer questions. And I thought, well, let's just do kind of a quick version. Sometimes I have those questions that take most of a video to answer, but I had a lot of short ones. So I compiled them into a list and we're just gonna do a bunch of quick questions. Nancy Schaefer says, do you wash your fabric before sewing it? Not typically. If it's something that will bleed, a red, a purple, a navy, something I might be concerned about, I will pre-wash. Or if it is a substrate that does better with pre-washing, I'll pre-wash it. Homespuns, for example. But for the majority of quilting cottons, I do not. Molly Barr says, do you mind sharing the batting you prefer to use? I don't have a specific preference for batting brand. I do like a low loft batting, and that's really the only thing I typically would specify to my long arm quilter. Sometimes long arm quilters will have a brand that they prefer working with, and if that's the case, I'm very happy just to let them use what they would like. So typically I just leave it up to my long arm quilter. If I need something specific, like if I want something that's not as warm, if I am making a flannel quilt, for example, and maybe I want it to be a little bit more lightweight, I might opt for maybe a bamboo batting or something like that. But overall, I just leave it up to my long arm quilter. I have 2 questions that kind of go together. Mary Lee Velarde says, do you recommend steam or dry iron for quilting? I use a small iron for quilting. And Rebecca Malkern says, do you steam iron as you are making your block and as you are setting the seams? I've always dry ironed mine because I thought steam might shrink the block. Does that happen, or does shrinking happen only when you use starch? So I love steam, use steam all the time, use it for setting, pressing fabrics before I start sewing with them, cutting them, all the things. I love steam, so I definitely use steam. It can shrink your pieces, especially if, like me, you are not a pre-starcher or a pre-washer. I've never had it shrink so much that it really affects things being too small and things not fitting together, but it certainly can happen. Mary N says, what fabric patterns do you find most interesting for binding? A stripe. I love a stripe. Stripes for binding are almost always the direction I will take. We have another 2 questions that go together. First from Susan McDonald, how do you label your quilts? Thank you. And then from Linda K, QOV, Cori, do you consider a quilt finished before you add a label? In my honest opinion, labels are a big part of adding the binding and doing that little bit of adding a historical label. I'm the worst quilt labeler. I think I have one quilt that I have labeled. With that being said, I think labels are important. I think probably, you know, if I have quilts around 100 years from now, whoever has that quilt would really appreciate knowing more about the quilt than nothing at all, because there's nothing on the backs of most of my quilts. I do think it adds important information to a quilt. So an example of do as I say, not as I do. And there are really easy, quick ways that you can label quilts without a lot of time and effort. Label subscriptions. The Sweetwater Fabric ladies have a wonderful subscription box that you can purchase that includes labels just for your quilts, which is a wonderful option, but lots of great ways to go about doing it, and definitely something worth doing. Maria Redpath says, love how the scrappy Irish chain turned out. So beautiful. I was wondering, what notebook do you use? So I was reading the beginning of that question and didn't see where we were headed. But when I was sharing my scrappy Irish chain, I had my notebook close by. And this is actually the notebook that you guys might have seen it a little bit, because I have my works in progress suggestions listed here for when I choose those numbers every month. Next week is the next number we are choosing, so I'll be choosing another one here. But I am so picky about my notebooks, so it kind of tickled me that she asked this. So here are my parameters for my notebooks, and I buy a whole bunch of them at once and then buy the same thing again once I use them all up. So it has to have the top coil, because I hate when I'm writing if I am leaning on the coil, so I need top coil, and I want graph paper. And so the graph paper works so nice because I can make my checklists. It has the built-in square that I can check things off as I do it. Or if I need to sketch up a quilt block, it's graph paper, so you can sketch up a quilt block really easily. So I use it not only for, you know, quilt block, quilt design, but checklists and then to-do lists. It's my preferred notebook of choice. They're actually a little bit hard to find sometimes. You can find them easier with the coil on the left, not as much at the top. And the graph paper makes it a little bit more unique too. So if they're still available on Amazon, that's where I bought them. But I've had to change my supplier over the years because they sell out and aren't available from where I purchased them previously. So if they're still available, I'll link to them. Probably most of you aren't as picky about your notebooks as I am, but I'm picky about my notebooks. And then also my pens. So my favorite pen to use is the Pentel Energel. It's the 0.7 width, which sounds bulky, 0.07, 0.7. I'm not sure which one, but you know when you're looking which one it is. But it's not bulky, and it's a gel, sort of, but it doesn't ever smear, and it comes in lots of colors. I like the navy blue best. I'm even particular about the color. I'm not super picky about a lot of things, but notebooks and then those pens, they've been with me for years, and I foresee us having a long-lasting relationship going forward. Okay. We have, one more question here. This is from Kathy Wishman. She says, I don't know if I misunderstood or dreamt this, but did you have some light-colored flannel fabrics in one of your recent fabric lines? Please and thanks. Love your videos, Cori. As a beginner quilter, I've learned so much from you and wish I could finish quilts faster than I do presently. I've always loved fabrics, like you said about yourself, but have no desire to design. I think my love of fabrics comes from my mother and her sisters, as they hand quilted fabrics on an old-fashioned frame, and I, as a little girl, would play around them as they stitched. But I must have noticed the fabrics as I did, and then as a young adult worked in a fabric store. Love your fabrics so much. Okay, so no, you didn't misunderstand or misremember. I do have a flannel fabric line coming out. Right now it's showing an end of July release. It's called Sherbet Sunshine Flannels. I will put links to where I chatted about the flannels and then where I shared about the quilts I designed for the flannel line. I'll link to those in the description box. You can, I think, see just a little peek of them right here. They're on my bottom shelf. They're going to get moved up here shortly where they're more visible as we get closer to that release date. But yeah, those are coming out soon. And with that in mind, I have an ongoing list right now I've been collecting of your flannel questions. I got a bunch of those when I shared about the fabrics, and then again when I shared about the quilts. It was things like, you know, how much do we have to worry about flannels shrinking? Do I need to change my stitch length? Are there certain patterns that work better for flannels? All sorts of questions like that. So if you have more specific flannel questions that you would want answered, leave those in the comments here. I'm going to compile a big list, and then I'm going to do a video answering a whole bunch of flannel questions all in one video, so it's all contained at one spot. So please leave those. If you have any other questions you would want me to answer in an upcoming video, let me know. If you have questions from today's video, let me know. And I thank you so much for stopping by. I will catch you again next time.